So with the self-care, we're going to talk about the natural solutions to reclaim, and maintain vitality. And really, the concept is to help people avoid burnout, especially for people that are taking care of, multiple family members. They're in the sandwich generation, they're busy with work. And we find a lot of people in our clinical practice are just stressed and the batteries being depleted, especially in a lot of ladies that we see. And we want to get into a few of these concepts from a dietary perspective, lifestyle, as well as the mind body piece. And it can be done. You can recharge the battery at any age. And we want to just make people understand that the mind, the body, etc., is all affected with these techniques and tips that we're going to discuss today. So, on one side, sharp mind, high energy and stamina, compared to poor focus, low energy, stamina, and even on that exhaustion stage. Commonly, people will see it in their sleep wake cycles, poor quality sleep versus sleeping very well. And that mental emotional inconsistency versus, you feel like everyone's got stress and have highs and lows, but it's basically that mental emotional balance that you're seeking. It's never a stress-free existence, but it's how do you respond to it. And on a physical level, people that can maintain, low, moderate body fat and stay moving, active at any age, right? Versus like a really high body fat to muscle ratio, um, and not able to really to be active and moving. I mean, that's something that's very important. So these are all definitely signs of like a burnouty fatigue pattern. And because it affects many different systems, people don't really connect the dots. That's what we want to discuss. And so if we just choose that word, burnout is used a lot, and there's varying degrees. We just say, Susan and I were talking, and someone was saying it's brownout, not full burnout, could suggest a bit more of a medium level of low energy, mental and physical. And there's, frustration and different pressures in life, fear, different people having different, levels of perhaps sickness, from mild colds, flus all the time, which is a sign of the immune system being lowered due to ongoing stress and exceeding your capacity to recharge the battery. And so just to gives us a little bit of, what are things that you can look for in your life here. And even that anxiety, depression state can always has like a lower physical battery charge involved in it. Nothing is mind body is not one way over here and one way under there. It's everything together, and depending on the person, that's how it will manifest. And to discuss that stress burnout concept and fatigue, I just want to go over the hormonal system in the body. And you can see here, male or female, the difference is really ovaries and testes, but we have all the same hormonal or endocrine organs. And every one of these endocrine organs communicate with one another. So you can see the brain's going to register millisecond by millisecond stressors, and then it's telling further down the chain how to react. So the hypothalamus, pineal, pituitary gland is telling the thyroid and the parathyroid, adrenals, especially the thyroid and adrenals, which are your big energy creation centers. And that's what we want to focus on. So your body is constantly communicating. So if you're you're in an ongoing stress state, your body's going to send a message to produce lots of cortisol, which is a very powerful energy creating molecule, and lots of adrenaline. And that's great. That's what keeps us alive. The downside is if it's ongoing and starting to exceed your capacity and you're not resting enough to recharge the battery, then things start to go out of balance. And
Battery 100%.
Things that go the most out of balance will be the reproduction, digestion, critical thinking, memory, learning. So essentially, when the body is under a lot of duress, your body prioritizes energy and says what things aren't important, what things are important. And that's why you'll see these seemingly unrelated symptoms from different organ systems, but they're linked. right? So if your body was super stressed ongoing, then reproduction's not high on the list, so your libido would be turned down. Digestion also not high on the list, because your body is in that running from the bear state, and it's saying, okay, squeeze the blood away from the digestive organs to send more blood flow and oxygen to your extremities to run or fight. That's that fight or flight response that many of you have heard about. Critical thinking, memory, learning, just think about that. If you were running from a bear, your body would not want to be doing the honey-do list and managing a whole bunch of complex critical thinking. It sends the blood to the limbic system away from the frontal lobes of the body to save your life. And then once you're in a safe space, the blood flows to the frontal lobes, the critical thinking area of the body, and then you can think more clearly. So when people think their memory's slipping a little bit, sometimes it's really they're under a little more stress and they've adjusted to it, and they're not realizing they're funneling a little bit more blood flow to their brain than to their limbic system and away from the frontal lobe of the brain. And so when you're looking at they call them the Hans Selye um, was a research scientist and came up with the um, adaptive stress concept, and was saying all mammals go through an alarm. If you have a stress, it goes through an alarm phase, and then it would resolve, and then you're into recovery phase. And then you kind of alternate in that left end of the spectrum. If the stress continues unresolved, you can end up in a more what they call the resistance phase, where your body adjusts, but typically lowers your energy output, lowers your memory, your digestion, like all of those things, they adjust. They're not turning off. They're just, hitting a lower percentage point. And then that can go on for years, really. And then commonly what happens is people, if they aren't paying attention and they're not doing a lot of good habits to recharge the battery, they do enter the exhaustion phase. And oftentimes symptoms come back or start in a higher level. And it's going to take that person a lot longer than to get back to this alarm recovery phase. So it's not a linear moment. It's up and down, up and down. And that's why our day-to-day habits are very important in order to constantly be recharging the battery, regardless of the stress levels, in order to get and establish our pushback, our battery charge, so we have reserves. So there's that fight or flight response. That's the sympathetic nervous system. Again, just to reiterate, if you are running, some people will just put it as jogging from a bear daily. Doesn't mean you're in immediate danger, but that ongoing stress where you would see, the bear's, 250 meters behind you all day. You're not in a threat, but you're never fully relaxed. A lot of people live their day to day like this. And so the chemistry, mental and physical, just adjusts and turns down your physical ability to be at its optimal. So you would see even these sort of symptoms here, for women, PMS ongoing, hot flashes, sweats, right, mood swings, abdominal fat gain, decreased sex drive, insomnia. Like these are things. Here's the mental stuff, right? Nervous, anxious, mild depression, poor memory. We all know this and experience it. Even indigestion, reflux, irritable bowel has a stress component and a maladaptive component to it. So the good news is you can really do a lot to improve your overall health. Here at the clinic, we use the heart rate variability test. We use an EIS, which is electrointerstitial scan technology, and it measures heart rate variability, which is the gold standard to measure how the body is doing and operating in that rest and repair, the parasympathetic nervous system, and the fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system. So these results here for this individual, you can see then the person is a little bit more fight or flight, that's sympathetic, just slightly over. So then, think of that like the foot's a little bit more on the gas pedal, and they can hit the brake okay, which is the parasympathetic. You have to be able to wind down. But if you're staying rev just slightly all the time, then many of those symptoms we just discussed are going to happen based on your genetics and many other factors. So this is something we like to use. Very good way for anyone to come in and to see where exactly they are in their stress handling ability. So some of the things that we need to do that are beneficial on the dietary perspective that we eat every day, wouldn't it be nice just to be able to make sure that you can optimally consume the food for your body type in the right mixture so that you keep your energy flowing nice and even. You're building muscle, you're burning body fat, you're having good mental and physical energy. One thing just to be mindful of, protein and fat, I would say, is most important at each meal. And again, that would mean some form of meat, chicken, fish, eggs, nuts and seeds, these types of foods at each meal. You don't want to just have like the bowl of pasta, right? Like the complex carbs, which are healthy, but a lot of times people, when they're under stress, they just basically reach only for quick noodles and quick toast, bit of jam, because they need the energy. So then the carbohydrates are giving that energy. However, if you don't get some of the fats and protein, then you're not going to be repairing as efficiently because our cells are all made of fat and protein. The carbohydrate is the fuel part. And so veggies and fruit also very healthy. So have them. But so for example, this would be chicken, with some rice, salad, things of that nature. Put a little olive oil on your salad. It could be steak, baked potato, and steamed broccoli. So steamed broccoli, and baked potato, put a little butter on that, have in your steak. So you really have a complete meal, and you'll find that will normalize your blood sugar pattern. And when you do that, your brain and your body function properly. And even if you're in a stressful situation, you can handle it because you're giving the building blocks. Also, the thing is, like, pay attention to your hunger signals. Oftentimes under extra duress, people's appetite, they do shut down. And I'm okay with that. Some people are better at, 2 meals a day. Just want to make sure though that you don't want to go without food prolonged when you need some of this stuff, like the protein and fat especially. And finally, like whole real food as opposed to a lot of packaged processed junk food, because we tend to reach for quick sugar when we're under more duress because it works really. Like that's it. Sugar gets into the bloodstream really quickly. We get a quick hit or a high, and that'll get us going. And that's sort of the equivalent of putting gasoline on the fire. And then, the fire goes up and then it shrinks down, and then you got to do it again. So then that causes you to be dependent on that quick acting sugar. So it's just a good, simple way to think about what foods to consume and how to form your meal plan. And there'll be a couple things that we want to lessen or limit, right? Because excess of these things will dysregulate our chemistry. And it's not saying you're never going to have a bit of sugar or cake or fun or some coffee. That's not the point of this. It's just if you need like 6 or 7, 8 coffee a day to function, that means you're burned out. Like that's it. Because caffeine's amazing and it works to stimulate the adrenal glands. So you want to own the caffeine. You don't want it to own you. Of course, there's people that eat or drink a lot of energy drinks, soft drinks that contain a lot of caffeine. That can be very problematic as well. And so a few coffee a day is not a big deal. Refined sugar, and the foods and drinks that contain it, again, we will crave a lot of sugar the more dysregulated or balanced we are. Alcohol also can pose a problem. Doesn't mean you can't have a glass of wine or two, but excess alcohol just to numb the body and nervous system, it works. Like that's it. That's why people use it so much. It just ends up depleting the body of so many key vitamins, minerals, and throws and makes the liver work harder, a little more neurotoxic to the brain in excess, right? And hydrogenated processed oils, like you see this bottle here, just those clear corn, canola, soy, any of the oils that are in the clear bottles are hydrogenated or processed, and they don't actually fit into our body chemistry, and they dysregulate our cell structure. So over the long run, there's a promotion of inflammation. Cell structure is imbalanced, and so we don't make our organs out of high quality building blocks. So that's more of like a long-term thinking about removing some of the offending items that aren't rebuilding and repairing ourselves. And same with junk food, cheap packaged foods, additives would have most of this processed oils in it. And just you're making your body, your kidney, your liver, your digestive tract deal with tons and tons of chemicals to filter and detoxify per year that we weren't designed to do. The estimation is anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds of additives go through the average North American's liver per year. Our ancestors never had that stuff. So then anything that's draining the body, that's not bringing something to you, but is taking something away over time, doesn't help you repair yourself as efficiently. That's really what you want to get out of this slide. And we just wanted to also talk about getting some good sunlight and having good sleep-wake cycle, because that's when we repair ourselves at night and we recharge all our battery, mental and physical. So a good sound night's sleep, like this lady here, makes a big difference. In the sun, chilling, reading a book, get off devices, sunlight on the skin also recharges the battery, so it's beneficial. And if you're on devices all the time before bed, that blue light is getting into the eyes and your brain's registering it like it's daytime, the time where we're supposed to be winding down. It's fine if you're going to have red to yellow tint on the device, if you're using it for a few minutes, that can turn off the blue light concept. I would just say that people that are scrolling and scrolling for hours and hours in bed, it's best to leave your devices at least 3-4 feet away from your head while you sleep, especially and put it in airplane mode, Wi-Fi off, so that's not pinging the tower for a strong signal. Because if you're falling asleep with the device on your body and it's pinging the tower, then you're getting microwave radiation the whole night, and that's like static to your brain waves, and your brain waves want to be in a calm state in order to sleep deeply, and people don't think about it that way. So there's some habits there you can quickly tweak, and it can pay huge dividends to recharge your battery.
And just looking at this slide, we just wanted to bring attention to some easy ways for people to spend some time with self-care. So obviously soaking in a hot tub, 20 minutes would be a nice way just to give yourself a little self-care. Sitting in a sauna, enjoying a bubble bath, just having that relaxing time, and then having yoga, meditation, away from devices and things, and just giving yourself that little moment to catch your breath and recharge your battery.
Exactly. And it is proven that when you do any of these, you do recharge your battery. You will put your body into the parasympathetic, which is the rest and repair mode. And that's the healing mode, and turn your nervous system down from the sympathetic or fight or flight mode. Everything now in the modern neurochemistry and biology is really heavily discussing that, get into vagal tone, parasympathetic tone, and get the body out of the fight or flight response. So many of the feel good habits, like Susan just mentioned, actually do that. So as the science catches up, just to discover, oh, that relaxation actually works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are a few things we get talked about and asked here at the clinic. Are there some, supplements or anything that could help support those systems and quicken the healing response? And we have a few that different companies that we use. And this Adapto Matrix, which has all the herbs and nutrients to help recharge the adrenal glands, works amazing to quickly recharge the battery, especially when you're in a situation where you're really not going to get away from it entirely. You can get that extra juice into the battery with some of these excellent adaptogenic herbs, things like rhodiola, ashwagandha, and so forth. Also, we like mushroom matrix or complex. The mushrooms are like reishi, shiitake, and you also have agaricus as well as chaga. And these are all functional foods that have been known for mental and physical health support for thousands of years. And the West is really discovering it even more. So there's many good companies that are making good formulas to get those whole food nutrients in from these medicinal mushroom extracts. and we find they work excellent. Same with the greens, which is all the vitamins and minerals from greens and red fruits and veggies. It also has mushrooms in it. So things like this, we get a scoop a day. It keeps that battery stoked up, especially if your appetite is trending a little lower and you need like just a drink with a few high impact nutrients to really recharge your battery. This is where these functional supplement or functional food supplements have their part. They don't replace food, but they can certainly help recharge a person on the go. Same with omega-3 fatty acids. Krill oil is one, fish oil. You need the omega-3 fats to reduce inflammation, good brain health, computing the DHA. Omega-3 fat is necessary for proper brain function. So in the fish oil, you can take one little capsule and make sure you're getting your bank account loaded up with some essential items. So this just gives you an idea of what will restore the stress handling ability, improve energy levels like mental and physical, and just it's a quick and easy way. You don't have to take all of them. Take one or two of them. Pays huge dividends. We have great success with clients daily taking things like this. And I'll pass it over to Susan for her excellent 2-minute tapping exercise.
And lastly, for some self-care, just taking 2 minutes. I know everybody's busy and it's hard to sort of make extra time for self-care, but just those 2 extra minutes of light tapping will help to recharge the battery and take you from distress to calm. So it's kind of like tapping on your head, very, very lightly, just a few fingers, lightly with your fingertips, 2 minutes tapping on your head, your heart, and then your belly. And just that little 2-minute tapping will help as a self-care, taking you from a distressed state to a calm state, breathing, and even just going for a walk, getting up, walking around your room for 2 minutes, going outside, getting some fresh air for 2 minutes. It's kind of like the 2-2-2 rule, and just seeing if this gives your self-care a little boost.
Nothing wrong with integrating the mind, body, and gut.
Right.
Excellent.
So thank you.